Host of Forged in Fire.
Kyle Mann.
I'm J. Warner Wallace.
Kira Davis.
It's Ben Adams.
Hey, this is Dave Baker.
Carrie Pomeroli.
This is Mike Reiner.
This is Ethan Nicole.
This is Leanne Morgan.
It's Graham Parker, the 5th GP, and this is why you should never.
How I got suckered in.
I'm so embarrassed that I'm here.
You're wasting your time. You got better things to do.
Never listen.
Those darling, yummy Reverend and the Reprobate.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate. My name is Lucas Peart. I'm an actual Reverend, and here with me, as always, is the man, the mirth, the legion. It is Dan Fwip Gibson. What would you like to throw today, Dan?
Not my cardigan, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, you do look a little bit like aged Batman.
I'll tell you what, as long as it's cold here in Texas, I will be wearing a cardigan from now.
It's 80 degrees, dude.
It's not 80 degrees.
It is currently, right now, 81 degrees.
Well, I don't care.
It's the hottest day.
It's not hot enough.
It's the hottest January 11th since 1911.
It's not hot enough to take off my cardigan. That's what I'm saying. I'm too comfortable. But anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about, is it?
No, it's not. Dan Priss Gibson.
You just keep on tagging on
just
more things.
extra nicknames every time.
Priss, Fwip. What was the other one?
So I gotta tell you, General Grease. I gotta tell you, I've been trying something today.
Yeah. What is this juice you've been pouring into your
Kool-Aid? I've drank.
Is it sugar free?
No. I drank a liter of Kool-Aid during this interview.
You are
to try and
trudging behind Bert, huh?
What I wanted to do was to make you proud, and and instead, what I think I've done is given myself a hot flash, which is good.
I have been eyeing this whole time. As you poured it out, I saw blue liquid. I went, "What is that?
Yeah, it was
Kool-Aid."
It was Kool-Aid.
I was curious, but I was like, "Certainly not. Certainly, this is some kind of high in magnesium, potassium mixture."
And many of you might think, "Oh wow, the hot flash thing is a joke," but it's not. We're having to go back in on my left side because apparently my double mastectomy from 2020 didn't get it all. So we're going to go in, do a little scraping. And what I've found out recently is that of all of the wonderful things of my wife that my son inherited, the thing of hers that I hate the most that he got is he got her elbows. Her elbows, which are shaped like tiny little arrowheads that will dig into my sides.
Ooh, especially when you're sore.
Okay, right? So he's like, gets up on me and the elbow goes right into this new soft tumor that's just right there. And it feels like I'm getting tased. So, he'll be almost asleep and then Dad'll jump and now it's 3 a.m. and we're both crying. So it's a lot of fun.
Let's get you back to sleep because I'm not going to be able to.
And there we go. So today on the show.
First off, we're keeping you in our prayers
thank you
for the procedure.
I appreciate
that they get it all this time.
Yeah, it would be nice. Today's episode, we get to talk to Andrew Lowen, designer, inventor, and marketer of the new tabletop role-playing game Deliverance, which is one of the biggest successes in crowd-funded tabletop or crowd-funded board games. Andrew tells us not only how the design of the game came about, what inspired him to do it, how his 985-day World of Warcraft streak was broken by his wife, who threw away his games and made him go outside for a run.
What a shame.
All that and next. Make sure that you like, subscribe, ding the little bell so that you get notifications whenever we go live or new episodes are posted. Leave us a review on iTunes and Spotify. I think's doing reviews now. It really helps us out a ton. Make sure that you tell a friend. And without any further ado,
hi Tina.
Always on these sweet, clean airwaves today. Fwip.
You listen right into it.
We've got the man who, you know what he creates? He creates something that you have no desire to play with or no desire to look at, because
I don't think that's accurate.
For Dan Gibson, the dinner table is only for eating and it's not for playing games. But here on these sweet, clean airwaves today, we have a game designer and a jiu-jitsu practitioner, the very handsome, the very talented Andrew Lowen. What's going on, man?
Thank you.
Did we pronounce your name correctly?
You did. You nailed it.
Fantastic.
I mean, every wrestling tournament that I've ever been to is Andrew Lowen.
That's terrible.
And yeah, you nailed it.
Why?
So I don't know.
Why would you go to that pronunciation? Like, I get some of the, the one of the most difficult one is Win in Gaian. The Vietnamese.
Yep.
I get that.
Do you get what?
Like if someone saw
People mispronouncing
win.
Gibson because it starts with an N, you get it?
I don't have an N.
I know, that's what I'm
starts-
saying. You don't get it.
We were talking about Dragon Ball Z.
Yes,
and
Dragon Ball Z.
how you refused to pronounce it properly. And
Correct.
then I asked you,
Yes.
how would you pronounce Dragon Ball GT?
Dragon Ball's GT.
Well, it was
Yeah.
a much more fun pronunciation.
It's
before.
the grand touring model of Dragon Balls. It's got the 500 horsepower engine.
Yes.
And Shelby signed off on that particular one. Well,
Sometimes it
let's,
takes a long way up.
Let's get started talking about the tabletop role-playing game Deliverance. So I got a few questions about this. My first hearing about Deliverance was a couple of years ago from our good friend of the show, Ethan Nicole, because it was like the very first tabletop game that Ethan played, maybe ever. And he was like, you know what? I was surprised this game didn't suck, and it was made by a Christian. So talk us through like what is Deliverance. I get several questions about how the crowdfunding worked for this game, because you set some records and did some cool things. But give us the high level. What is Deliverance?
Mm-hmm. So Deliverance is it's a tabletop. It's actually a board game. RPG players might understand it as something that it's like an RPG with no dungeon master. So you're all playing cooperatively against the game itself. And you play angels, elite angels in the army of heaven. And you've come down to this small little backwoodsy town in modern day Southern California called Fallbrook, because it is filled with demonic activity. The town itself is not a power center. There's no real people of influence in this area, and yet there are so many demons there. And so it's up to you and your team to figure out what's going on and put a stop to it. But something odd is happening in this area. It seems as though the evils of the human realm are bleeding into the spiritual realm and manifesting as darkness, which you will have to overcome. So it's kind of a game about using your character, like Michael the Archangel, Gabriel the messenger of God, Azrael the angel of death, whatever it is, you use your special powers to vanquish these demons that are on the field in tactical combat. But you have to kind of balance that against these darkness cards which come out that you can't defeat with your sword. So you have to use pray actions, and you'll draw prayer cards that do very powerful things, and you in essence feel like a really ultra powerful angel that's just about to die. That's kind of how it's a lot of people have described it like Frank Peretti's This Present Darkness, the game.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, no kidding.
I loved that book. Really,
Yeah.
I still do. It's probably about time I reread it or give it to my son, but I still haven't.
That's what he needs to read right
fantastic.
after going to Italy.
Yeah.
Look, now let's get
After
you some
after
real
go-
American culture, Frank Peretti's. His name ends with an I, so it is Italian.
After you've done all that sinning in Italy,
Yeah.
let's come back and let's
Come back
check
and-
it out.
yeah, this is what
We
was
need
happening.
to read about Azrael, who I think may be in the book. I don't remember.
He's in the Bible.
You've got Tal, you've got
Yeah.
I don't think there's no angel in Frank Peretti's This Present Darkness that's also named in the
also-
Bible. However, it doesn't
Right.
preclude angels from having those names. So maybe.
Yeah. So, but what was I guess when you create a book like this, what do? Do you just binge read Frank Peretti novels, or do you is this something that like starts as a small spark? You and your buddies are up in the hot tub at 3 a.m. and you're like, wouldn't it be great if we made a game? And then it starts with a what was the thing from Parks and Rec? The cones of
Dunshire.
Yeah, the cones of is that how it starts
No,
off?
he starts that, I think, because he loses his job.
Well, I mean, okay, maybe that Andrew owns
And
two.
he gets really into a bunch of things, including the cones of Dunshire.
Yeah, Andrew owns two businesses or is unemployed. It depends on how you look at it. So, yeah,
That's
it's
true. I'm
how does it
unemployable.
start? How does it start?
So it actually starts with a petty man raising his fist in anger toward the living God, because I was very upset so in my household I play a lot of games with my wife. I actually quit video games cold turkey back in 2015. I used to play I was actually a professional Hearthstone player at one point. I put a lot of hours into World of Warcraft, 985 days in a row stacked together, played on one character the last I checked.
What was your character?
It was a gnome rogue, ugly gnome rogue that looked like my grandfather, bald and like a mean mug.
Is that what you
That's
picked him?
awesome.
Yeah. So, but then we stopped.
Have you sold
playing,
that character?
Say it again.
Are you going to sell that charactor? Like, since you've given up video games, are you going to?
I do have the mini Diablo. I've got like all the I still have the actually just when I moved about a year ago from California to Texas.
Welcome.
And I threw. Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Got my rifle case behind me like a good Texan.
Attaboy. Good job.
But now I'm just thinking about my rifle case. What am I even talking about?
Yeah.
Now you just need to grow your beard longer.
There's this thing that I've heard about where like people sell their World of Warcraft characters, like they build it up and then they sell it. Are you going to sell your ugly gnome rogue?
No, it used to be a bigger thing than it is now, I think. But I've got some really cool titles and that kind of thing. It's just
$20.
It's a memory,
bucks. Yeah.
It used to be my wife called him the other woman.
Oh. Wow.
At one point, I was very seriously into World of Warcraft.
That's what my wife calls him.
I'll sometimes brush my hair over Danley's backpack just so she knows that I've been around.
Whose hair is? Oh, I know.
Yeah. You've been hanging out with
Lucas.
Lucas.
Like Herbal Essences shampoo.
Yeah. I'm more of an Aussie guy. I'm going to be honest with you, mostly because that's what my wife buys. That or whatever is in the purple bottle at Costco.
Yep.
It's probably awesome.
I use whatever shampoo is in the shower at the time.
It's the same with their dog.
We've really gotten off track.
They're basically greenies.
Okay, so you get angry at God because you have to quit video games cold turkey.
No, actually,
he had to quit cold turkey.
Right.
So I decided. Basically, I just had my third child, and now we're on number 7. Like we're attempting number 7. So
wait, hold on. You're planning for number 7?
Yeah, so we have 6.
Are you going to rest after?
I probably will quit after. I hope. I don't know. But
you rest after the 6th, right?
Yeah, you rest after the 6th. Dang it. That's he should currently be resting.
I totally missed it.
Yeah.
Missed it until now. So
so are you Catholic or Mormon?
I just actually just neither.
Okay, good. This is sweet.
We go to an Anglican church, which is close enough.
Oh, well, yeah. There you go.
He's happily married. That's what
he's Catholic.
But I used to go to like non-denominational mega churches before that, so I'm really like an enigma.
Yeah, no joke. How are you liking the liturgy?
So I grew up Lutheran, and now in this Anglican church, I think it works for me. It really does. But it's interesting. I'm at this point where I don't consider myself an Anglican.
Right.
I'm a Christian who goes to an Anglican church, but I appreciate things that they value. It's just nice to kind of keep the main thing.
Yeah. So I've always been just regular evangelical my existence, right? So I'm curious. Do the Anglicans, and I don't mean any offense by this, it's the only way I know how to say it. Do they do like the smoking handbag like the Catholics do?
However, if they did, I think my children would be the first volunteers for that.
Because that was like the original fog machine.
Is that why you don't want a fog machine so bad?
Yeah, because it's I associate it. It's either the Catholics or it's Hillsong.
See, but I don't want to have it in a procession of some kind. I want to have it tucked back in the corner.
No.
All right. This is an ongoing argument.
They do this chimes thing though.
Yeah.
Which, depending on the Anglican church you go to, your mileage may vary. But so I used to go to this Anglican church that was like 30 recovering alcoholics in a temporary, whatever those like containers turned into a room.
Right.
It was just a really tiny church. And there were times where they would ring these bells. It's like I don't know. I still don't know why they ring the bells, but they ring these bells and they would clang those things so loud for so long. It was like the demons are all fleeing away because of the bell sound or something. I don't know.
Now, is that a
card? I go to now.
I also don't think bells have a place in 2023.
Well, they were making sure that angels got their wings.
Yeah, that's an old movie.
So that Andrew could make his game.
Old movie. Doesn't have a 2023.
That's a card you can pull on Deliverance.
Bells?
It's a bell and an angel gets its wings and then he can go and fight better.
Giving me ideas. Fruits of the spirit.
Okay, so back to the game because when we left off,
how do you come up with the idea?
No. When we left off,
you were a cold turkey.
You had
I
said
was raising my fist in anger to the God who made me.
Yes.
No, wait. Before that, hold on.
Okay.
What?
Hold on. The game feels like you're a high-powered angel that's constantly on the verge of death or about to be overcome.
Yes.
Right. Now we're trying to get to how he came about that idea. That's when he raised his hand at God. That's where we're at.
Okay.
Welcome back.
I've been here.
Andrew, you're up.
Well, tell me.
We've had way too much sugar.
We don't have to
Go ahead.
in.
We'll go your direction.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. So, so I quit video games cold turkey. I felt God was just kind of calling me away from them. And I'm a huge nerd. I need my fantasy, so we ended up reading books out loud. Like I was Audible for my family. We read like all of the Wheel of Time series. We read the Wingfeather saga. We read, just tons and tons of book series that we could get our hands on. And it wasn't enough. And I used to play a lot of Magic the Gathering, a lot of Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, every collectible card game you can think of. And we got back into board games. It was like chance, I think, but we got Pandemic. Our first game was Pandemic, that was like a modern board game, and it was cooperative. And then exploded in my head. Was like, we're not playing against each other. We're actually playing with each other. We're basically playing the COVID-19 game.
Right. When did you get Pandemic?
This was in like late 2015. Late 2015.
Good job. You got some early practice.
Yeah. So we ended up playing a lot of board games. We got Catan. We played that every day for a month, and then we just kind of got in deeper. And I have some of my games that I just brought back from a little family vacation. Lord of the Rings: Journeys to Middle Earth, and some other games that are really great. But the problem was I wanted to play these epic fantasy experiences. Like I grew up playing fantasy games. I told you about World of Warcraft. I put a lot of time into that. Put a lot of time into Elder Scrolls games. I put a lot of time into, basically any popular fantasy game. I always had an eye on it or had played it. And so I would always look for fantasy board games. But the problem with most fantasy board games is that, I'll put it lightly. They to me, they kind of require compromise in some aspect of faith. Like you're either, trying to, like you're either playing as a cultist trying to bring Cthulhu into the world, or you're doing something else that involves using magic in a manner that the Bible says you shouldn't do that. It's some kind of power fantasy. There are themes that are safe, like space, or maybe like Marvel superhero type stuff. Mm-hmm. But I wanted like dark fantasy stuff. And the problem with dark fantasy is that it's dark. So we ended up getting this game. I backed this game on Kickstarter called Seventh Continent, which is a lot like Indiana Jones, a version of, it feels like you're playing as Indiana Jones, exploring this town or exploring this island and finding treasures and whatnot. And there's a curse that's after you and everything. And
Crystal Skull or Lost Ark?
Lost Ark, much more Lost Ark than Crystal Skull. So
I really wanted to be Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
No.
So we actually ended up tossing it. We ended up throwing this game away because it wasn't a game that my wife was willing to play because of the imagery in there and some of the other the content of the game. And I had a lot of hope in this game. I was like really excited about it, and it was just kind of the last straw for me. I just got really frustrated, and I looked at God and I said, well, my wife made me go out on a run, and I hate running. But I just needed to get out of the house and probably leave her alone for a little while. I was moping, and she just encouraged me to, go relieve some stress in that way. And I started just thinking about, if God is such a big, powerful, amazing God that can do anything, why can't he make an awesome Christian game that required zero compromise on the faith front, but also required zero compromise on the quality front? Because every game that we can think of is just it's secular. The good games are secular games. Christian games are awful. They're educational tools with a thin candy coated shell of.
Well, you obviously haven't played the
right?
NES versions of Elijah.
Oh, yes,
Bible Quest.
Bible Quests.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, those just ended up not sticking around. And frankly, designing Deliverance, I know why. It's so hard to design a good Christian game. It's easy to design a Christian game. It's hard to design a good one, hard to make one feel fun. But yeah, so that, little did I know that God was saying, or that I was saying to God, here am I, Lord, send me. And God's like, okay, you want this? You're going to make it then. And
You want
I just
this? Roll D6.
It was like something like the Matrix. It was downloaded into my head. Like, bam, I know Christian game. And I had this idea pop into my head about Gabriel and the Prince of Persia, this story in Daniel. And, the Gabriel's like the messenger of God, like the, hey, Mary, you're going to have baby Jesus, Gabriel. And probably like the top post office angel in heaven. I don't know. But he's got a great pension, stopped by this Prince of Persia, which is some fallen angel.
Right.
And he was, Gabriel probably said, move aside. And this Prince of Persia said no, and was able to withstand him for 3 weeks. And then Gabriel finally was able to break away only when Michael the Archangel came to relieve him. And then not even Michael the Archangel could defeat this guy, because Gabriel had to go back and help Michael. And later there was going to be this other big monster dude, my paraphrase, not biblical, called the Prince of Greece. And I thought, there are fallen angels in the Bible that are described in the Bible that clearly equal or exceed the power of Michael the Archangel and Gabriel, the two angels that are named. This seems like I've never been taught this in school or church or anything like that, but that's interesting. How did that happen? Like, what did they do? You know, did they fight? So that's kind of where the idea came from.
I also am interested if they fought, which is why we referenced Frank Peretti's book earlier.
Yes,
that's the fun of that book is seeing behind the veil, essentially the spiritual veil of all these battles that are going on that I as a guy, a human, and definitely a nerd, am interested in. I want to know about that. So that's essentially what the game is like you said, a very overpowered angel who's still on the verge of destruction, which sounds fun.
It's definitely and if you
want stakes
contrast
to
with
be
Frank
high.
Peretti's This Present Darkness, you've got this Present Darkness is more about what's going on in the physical realm, and then the spiritual realm, like the angels and the demons and whatnot, are like supporting cast that are trying to jockey for position around the physical realm and what's happening there. Whereas Deliverance really focuses on the spiritual realm and what's happening there, where the physical realm, if you will, is the supporting cast. So you don't have somebody that hates God because his wife died of cancer, but then he repents on mission number 5 and leads his town to salvation by mission 12 or something like that. Like, there's really in this way, there's not much preaching happening. It's more demon slaying happening, and the happenings of the physical realm have a dramatic impact. There's a really great story that unfolds through a campaign. So it's a campaign-based game, but also it has a really great skirmish mode that you can kind of just sit down at game night and play. It's the one that people will play. We've had people play it 150 times just on Tabletop Simulator, which is digital. Nobody even has the physical edition yet.
That's cool.
You mentioned there's cards you can draw. Is there any dice rolling or rolling?
Yes. So we have dice in the game that are custom, beautiful looking dice. They you roll them. So the combat is diceless. So as an angel, if you're going to deal 5 damage to something, just put 5 damage tokens on the thing you hit. You never miss. You're an angel. But there are things called tests.
I like that.
For example, it makes sense. Checks out.
Yeah. You're not a stormtrooper. You're an angel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no red shirts, no stormtroopers.
Yeah, no, I've
you're not of the seed of Adam.
No, I've been doing this since eternity before.
Yeah.
I got
it's
it.
as if every angel is like Kylo Ren, but good.
With a sweater
and those pants.
So you've got a lot of different cards in the game that are well, let's talk about this test thing first. So
let's test.
So you roll. So you take Catan style, how you roll 2 dice together and you add the result and do the various
robber
areas
and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to roll 2 dice in what is called a test to see if you pass or not. It's like a pass fail. So if you use a pray action, you get to draw a prayer card because prayer is always answered in some way. and then you get to test. So you're going to roll 2 dice, see if you get a 7 or above, and if you do, then you succeed and get to do something cool. So there are a lot of tests that happen in the game.
So I'm curious about like the prayer card dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Because okay, so if you roll like less than a 7, is that when you flip over your prayer card and God's like, no?
Call for you. Call for you.
Yeah.
No, so they players really love this. So one of the worst things in any game, in my opinion, is losing a turn. When you feel like you tried something and you failed, and it's like a lot of games are, like you roll 30 dice and then you miss with all of them, so you don't get to deal any damage. It feels like you just like wasted a turn. So in Deliverance, when you use an action, one of the things I want you to feel like is that you gained something no matter what. So the darkness cards are coming out. They do negative things. They're kind of like in Magic the Gathering, enchantments or sorceries. That is kind of what the darkness deck, what's going to come out at you, and you have to cast down those ongoing the cards that stay in play. You have to cast down through prayer. So that's why you want to test and succeed, so that you can get rid of cards like suicidal thoughts and medical delirium and a nation divided and all those crazy things happening in the physical realm. But if you fail to roll, let's say you roll a 2 or whatever, and you're not going to cast one of those down, you gain a resource, what is called courage. It's kind of like your energy bar that you build up to unleash in, like Street Fighter or like Marvel versus Capcom. You've got your ultimate ability that you can unleash. And then you've got this prayer card, which has, I call it tongue-in-cheek, highly thematic flavor text on the back of the card, which is a Bible verse. The Bible verse actually relates to what the game text on the front of the card does, which is fun. Sometimes people will actually read it to decide if they want to use a pray action, if they're like on the fence. They're like, is this going to heal or damage or what?
Oh, nice.
But when you use the pray action, you get to draw that card. It is kind of like a one-time use action that will help you in some other way. So you kind of fell behind a little bit if you didn't get to utilize that pray action, but hey, you just got a free movement of some kind, or you got the ability to heal, or generate additional resources.
Hey, any game that you can play as a family, have a good time, and pray at the same time is money well spent.
Yeah. I've got Satanists and atheists and agnostics and whatnot that are just all about prayer and just being like, they understand like the mechanics of the game are such that you have to pray and you have to get rid of those darkness cards. And it's very fun for people that are not Christians. This actually was probably one of the most surprising things to me about this entire process, was how excited non-Christian folks became doing, like, kind of exploring this theme, because the theme is very approachable in this game. It's not trying to preach at you, but there are people who have told me, Andrew, there is no God, but this game is great. And I just said, oh, cool, man. Let's play.
That's awesome.
And, because games they shouldn't be meant to preach, right? It's a fun box. You buy this 5-inch tall, whatever, 11-inch, 12-inch wide box. It should be a box full of fun, but not necessarily teaching or preaching. But in the hands of a preacher, you can use it for teaching. But
you should do a class on that.
It'd be so much fun.
It would be so much better.
Yeah. Not like you pay attention in class anyway. So
no, I got a better question.
Okay.
What does the lovely Mrs. Lowen think of Deliverance? Because you mentioned that she hated the other one, or you didn't say hated. I'm paraphrasing that she refused to play it.
She made you go running instead of play the game.
Yeah.
I hope she never listens to this.
She won't. Our wives
probably
don't.
it was like a version
nobody
of the
listens
truth.
to this.
But
Hi, Tina.
so well, she more just convicted me that it's that I'm settling, and so she because of the number of hours that I've put into this game, sometimes she'll refer to it as the other woman also.
Yeah.
It's just it was a very expensive, time-consuming hobby for a long time.
Right.
It's about 6.5 years so far since I came up with the idea. But it's actually her favorite game. It's his
Wow.
favorite game.
That is an
That's-
The one
endorsement.
that she
That's
always
pretty
wants to
cool.
play. Yeah.
There's nothing I do that's my wife's favorite.
Yeah, my wife has 13 more podcasts she likes over this one.
The next thing I do that impresses my wife will be the first. Okay, so
We are sad.
we're just honest. So you've developed this game now. I'm curious what takes it from like the hey, this was a fun thing we played at the house that I spent way too much time on to, you know what, I think we've got a good idea here. Let's throw it
mass
on.
produce
Yeah,
it.
let's throw it on a crowdfunding
where do you
site
go
and
from, hey,
get
this
it.
is fun to mass produce?
Right? Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have a kidney disease, and not one of your kids was being sent to Africa for a mission trip. So why did you think it was a good idea to crowdfund this?
Yeah, it was. So I originally fully intended, I'm like, I'm going to make the best Christian game that exists, and I'm going to give it to a publisher because I do not want to start another business. I've
Right.
got a business already. I do not intend on starting another one. I am going to wrap this thing up so beautifully in a box and put a bow on it and hand it to them and say, just give me a royalty for sales. And here's all of this work that I spent on it. And that just did not work out. And it came down to, if this is going to happen with the vision that I have to do it. And, it was tough because one of the things that I found is like a deal breaker for me, as I'm talking to these other companies, they want to make angels do like every tropish thing. Like the angel has to trick you and be a bad guy. Ha, you didn't know, but I was bad the whole time. And, I'm in your group, plot twist, and the demons could be good, or you could play as the demons, other things like that, which are not theologic or not biblically sound, right? Those ideas. I mean, the Bible says very clearly, angels are good, fallen angels are bad, and Satan's the worst of all of them. And so I wanted something that could be considered, high fantasy, low fantasy, but certainly theologically sound in every way that the Bible was, not silent. We'd take certainly lots of creative license and liberty where the Bible was silent, and interpret in other ways and make specific choices on purpose for things like, for example, the angels. They're in essence good-looking people with two wings, which I'm almost certain is not biblical. But we've
There's
made a
gotta be
choice
some
for that.
ugly
We
ones
wanted
mixed
people
in.
to see themselves. in those
I don't have any wings.
Yeah.
eyeballs everywhere, godlike.
It'd be
You
like
like
if
fall
our-
over and worship these things.
It'd be like if we found out that Juan was actually an angel.
He's the angel of diabetes.
Hey, listen.
Listen, yeah, Juan's a good friend.
Is a dear friend. He would love that we're talking
He'll
about
also not listen to this because it takes too much reading to listen to our podcast, and he had scarlet fever as a child and can't read. We'll have to have him on sometime to tell us about
I want
that.
to.
You won't let
I
him
just
have
talked to him yesterday.
Great.
But total side note, I apologize.
it. Andrew should talk to
That's
him.
all right.
You'd love Juan.
That's awesome. I can't wait. We gotta name it up.
So,
Juan, send me your number.
yeah. I'm sure he could figure that out. Numbers he doesn't have a problem with. It's those stupid letters.
Yeah, although he did learn how to text.
Yeah, that's
He said,
because he just talks.
Steffi taught me how to text.
Oh, great.
That's what he said.
Okay, so when you're talking about how like angels are portrayed differently, right? I'm assuming, and I've only seen like this stuff off of your crowdfunding campaign. You're not like 3D printing 6-winged 100 eyeball angels, are you? Is that what
Right.
we're rolling with?
No. So Michael the Archangel, for example, looks a lot like William Wallace from in he's like the Brazilian, or he's like as if William
He's
Wallace
Brazilian
got
Wallace?
a tan and a Brazilian blowout.
Oh wow,
So kind of.
he's Benjamin.
Okay.
So it's like each of the angels they kind of represent a different culture in the world, because heaven is filled with every tribe, kindred, and language and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit of a commentary on what I think heaven will be like. So the angels are males and females. You've got Christine, who's got like beefcake arms and looks like she could win in any arm wrestling contest.
Is there an angel who looks like Ken Jeong?
There's Tao Lu. He's kind of like a play on the Monkey King. So if Ken Jeong was like really, really, really awesome.
The Monkey King is a really fun character from mythology for those.
Yeah. So, but
like the Monkey King.
he represents China. So he's the Windwalker. We've got Miko, who is kind of represents Japanese. We kind of went with a little bit of almost a play on a geisha, like a geisha's makeup, and very like calm feel. Anyway, so something
Very
like
cool.
that. So we've got some cultures around the world.
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think about Batman Beyond?
Oh my gosh. Let's finish on the game and then we can switch gears. Right? When you look at crowdfunding as the way that you're going to make this happen, obviously you said you participated in other people's crowdfunding with their stuff. That's how you got the game that your wife hated and made you run for. How do you start down this road, and how do you have the conversation with the lovely Mrs. Lowen and say, hey, listen, we're going to try this crowdfunding thing. If this works, this game actually might, have been a good investment of my time. Is she just like, you know what? Yeah, go try it. And once you start gaining momentum and it looks like this is actually going to happen, what's that ride like?
So with a Christian product like this that kind of breaks all the molds, my assumption was that I would not use it to preach the gospel, that I would use it for fun primarily, and that it would not condemn, let's say, outright any alternative lifestyle of another person that doesn't share the Christian faith. And yet it needed to be theologically, like I needed to nail the theology, and it needed to be made for adults, and it, all of that. I felt so. My day job, I run a marketing agency, and I actually do a lot of marketing for Kickstarter board games and RPGs and other things as well, but in the games space. And I decided that this game, if people wanted it, that I would need to tell people about it, and they would need to be excited enough to jump on my email list and learn more and tell their friends and that sort of thing. So my personal goal was, in order to prove that this is an idea worth pursuing, I needed to find a way to get 1,000 people on my email list without paying for it. So that was kind of my personal, litmus test, if you will. And it took playtesting, talking about it in Facebook groups, and kind of going to local little conventions and sharing it and that sort of thing. But we hit like 1,100 people on the email list after about a year of just as I was working on it and tinkering with it and playtesting and whatnot. And it was like, we really have something here. We were like 900 people in the Facebook group, 1,100 people on the email list. And it was like, I didn't pay for these people. And it's really hard to just build an email list with cardboard, ugly looking, stuff. It didn't have any art or anything. And my wife and I, it was like a no-brainer at that point. I was like, people want this, and there are a lot more people than I thought. And I think that if we actually made a go at this, that it would pay off. And so I put $45,000 on my home equity line of credit over time. I maxed out a credit card. I rolled that over to another credit card that was like 0% interest for 12 months. And then we built up to Kickstarter, and we launched and made $141,000 in 24 hours.
Wow.
Dang, dude.
It was actually 8 hours. It was about 8 hours.
Well, congrats, man. Talk about
on the first day.
betting on yourself and then
No kidding.
and then seeing that come to fruition. That's awesome.
It was so scary. I
bet.
kid you not. It was like skydiving, but or like bungee jumping, but you saw like a rip in your bungee cord. You're like, I think that'll hold me. But now's the time. I'm on the bridge and I have to jump and decide if I'm willing to trust that.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was really scary.
It's like switching into another parachute
Or
mid fall.
playing a prayer card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I have is this prayer card. So yeah, it was a crazy feeling. We went through about a month's Kickstarter, and actually, at this was right close to the time that I have one of the guys that kind of helps me proofread and is a co-author with me in the story. He suggested that I would reach out to Kyle Mann of the Babylon Bee because he saw him playing Imperial Assault on, the Babylon Bee podcast at some point. Yeah. And so I reached out, and it turns out that at the time I only lived about an hour from Kyle. And Kyle was like, come to my house, show me this thing, and so we ended up actually hanging out, having a couple of game nights, and I got to meet his family and all. And he invited me onto the Babylon Bee podcast to talk about the game. And I was very nervous. This is on the second day of the campaign, after we had 900 comments that I couldn't respond to in the first 8 hours. My wife and a friend, Ryan, were just cranking away on their cell phones, just responding to every single comment while I was up at the Babylon Bee HQ recording the podcast and playing the game with Ethan.
So this is
I was
before,
very nervous
this is
because I
before
knew Ethan did not like board games.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, but I'm glad to hear he actually had fun,
Yeah, he did. He enjoyed it, and when we were looking at, because there's a video up of him playing it with you, I think on what is the original prototype of the game. It was really cool, and he famously, like Danley, hates board games.
I desperately want to like them. Like, I want
How
so bad.
How desperate are you? I've seen you desperately want to do things, and you find a way to do them. You desperately sabotage every... Okay, so you played Lord of the Rings Journey to Middle-earth. I can see it back there, right? How often is Aragorn supposed to die during an adventure?
Oh, why?
Every time. That's
how
often he does.
My complaint is it moves too slow.
That's actually not an uncommon complaint. I think that downtime is a big thing in a lot of games, and is something that I find. So Ethan is scary, but the scariest humans that I've ever played in, I'll qualify the term scary, that I've ever played Deliverance with are my parents.
Okay.
The only games they have ever played are Wordle, and that's all.
Whoa. Okay.
My dad used to play Legend of Zelda on regular Nintendo when I was like 3 years old, and he played MechWarrior 2, like way back in the day, and that's it. And that was because he could use a joystick.
Right.
So
okay.
But yeah.
So
my mom doesn't
how did they
have
do?
a sense of humor.
How did they do? How'd they do?
So my dad actually started. So I decided, if the game, it's in its final state, I had this cool prototype back behind me, and I thought, if the game is ready for Kickstarter backers, and that's the version they'll receive, it's not going to get any better, and I better just kind of get it over with now and play it with my parents and see if they hate it. They actually, so my dad, I could tell he kind of thought he wouldn't enjoy the experience of playing a board. He hasn't played a board game since, Avalon Hill games and back in the day. And he started out kind of like goofing off, which is what he does when he's uncomfortable. He goofs off and
that's what I do too.
Plays around. Mom's like, I'm trying to do my best. I love my son and I'm going to try my best, and my dad was Michael the Archangel, and she was Uriel Flame of God, who basically looks like, if you're familiar with Warhammer 40K, like the God Emperor. He's like this giant plate wearing Polynesian dude that is on fire. And they both just, after the first round, they did not even need my help. They were telling me what they were going to do, and they were just slaying the demons, and we were trying to support from the back line. They were having so much fun. It was actually shocking for me to see that people who had never played a game before really, really had a good time. And I think part of the element is that you're not only are you working together, so the game is like full information available to every player. Like, I can see your prayer cards in your hand if you want to show me them, and other things like that. There's nothing that you have to hide from your teammates. But it's like, what should I do, everybody? I could do this or that. And everybody has an opinion, and everybody's talking. And it's like, all right, this guy's damaging me. I'm going to die. And then two players are like, I can help you. I can help, and it's just a constant like chattering among players of just being engaged. My dad's favorite thing in the world to do is just fiddle around with his phone. Like most people probably nowadays, we're mostly cyborgs walking around. But he never touched his phone like the whole time.
Really?
And yeah, so it's actually one of those games that I feel confident to if somebody says, I don't normally like to play games, but if they say I'm willing to try it, and with the group and whatnot, they have always enjoyed themselves. They might be like, I wouldn't probably play that on my own, but I enjoyed that enough that if we were all together again, I'd play that again. And that's like a
pretty
huge
cool.
win. That's like giving it an 11 out of 10 on Ethan's score meter.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's a form of litmus. I'm trying to find another example of a
10
scientific
X
test.
cops out of 10.
Yeah, you did have to have your parents test it out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the fact they sat down and actually played it, enjoyed it, and didn't touch their phone. That's
Well,
Yeah.
and that's different, like as an adult, right? Because when you're a kid, your parents try your stuff, and you're like, "Oh no, that's great!" Like Kale's guacamole, right? Like it's
all limited.
yeah. Like you try it for the first time, you're like, you know what? This was a really good try. I'm really proud of you.
Like your lemon soup.
Yeah, you're sort of out of that kind of demographic now, right? Like our hairlines are receding. Mom and Dad aren't proud of us anymore for the little things that we bring to them. They're not hanging anything we do on the fridge, So this like the test of the parents is pretty cool that they were into it.
Yeah, and
that's
I gave
kind of
them
how you
every
do.
opportunity to get out of it as well. Like I learned, like when I'm at a convention, for example, and I'm at a booth, I'll talk to somebody and they'll say, "What is this?" They don't want a 10-minute spiel; they want like a 30-second quick explainer. And what I do is I've learned, like, I have like it's a tactical adventure and spiritual warfare board game that's cooperative. And that's my answer. And a lot of the time, some of those words are like, "Whoa, yeah, that's interesting. Tell me more." And other times they're like, "Thank you very much." And then they just head off, and everybody's happy. And if I stop them for 10 minutes, they're like looking at their watch, and they're not interested and that kind of thing. You just want to make sure that people have the option to get out if they want to, bow it with grace, right?
Yeah.
And they may be really looking forward to just getting over to the magic booth or something like that, right? Or they might have dinner in 5 minutes and they don't have time to talk, So I use the same tactic with my parents, and I explain them the game, and we kind of set it up, and we're like, all right, yeah, let's play a round of the game. The game is 2 battles, which consist of a series of rounds, maybe like 5 rounds per battle, so 10 rounds for a whole game, let's say. I gave my parents the option to get out after the first round if they wanted to stay in. We finished battling through the first battle. This was like 5 rounds. And you kind of level up and grow in power and become more awesome. You get heavenly treasure, and you unlock talents, which are new abilities. And, heavenly treasures like loot, like
Right.
breastplate of righteousness and the greaves of truth and other things like that. And they were like, so in battle number 2, you've got like the big bad, the fallen prince, which represents the evil demonic overlord that is leading the armies of darkness from the shadows. So we actually played against the who was it? The Prince of Persia, Deva, the Prince of Persia. So he has 21 health and is just ridiculously gnarly. And I just set it up. I'm like, so that's kind of what it's like in the second battle. And I just kind of sat back. My wife was like, "You guys want to play it?" And they were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
That's
Who's
awesome.
going first? And I could not believe that they were that into it.
They were into it.
My dad's way past his bedtime, and he's stoked. Like I shared about it in a Kickstarter update because I was so shocked, and I knew that people had parents and family and friends that they were hoping, like they wanted to like introduce this game to them because they're Christians but not gamers, or they're gamers but not Christians, or whatever, right? And it just, I could tell, I mean, there were so many people that just said, "Thank you so much for sharing that story. It gave me so much hope for when I get this box. Can't wait to share it with that person now."
So how many players is it, and what's the play time like?
So it's 1 to 4 players.
Okay.
And you've got, and for those hardcores that love playing by themselves, it is dedicated solo mode, like one angel against the game. It's meant to be played that way. But there are kind of two major modes of play. One is the campaign, which you'll have missions that range between like 45 to 90 minutes, depending on the player count. And then there's the skirmish mode, which is like, it's meant to be about a 1 to 2 hour experience. If it's your first time through, it'll take a little longer, but generally it's like 1 to 2 hours, depending on your player count. 4 players will take 2 hours, but it's pretty well contained. So you can play either a campaign mission if you didn't have that much time, or if it's game night and you're ready for like the feature game. Deliverance is a good one for that. If you've got 4 players,
That's awesome. Well, what's your next target? Like if you're going on Shark Tank and you said, we had a good launch.
Yes.
But the next thing I want to do with this game is what?
Danley and I have $7. We want to know how many points that's going to get us.
How much equity does that get me?
Yeah.
It'll get you a high five and a hug if we ever meet in person.
Perfect.
Yeah. And
I always go left on the hugs, so you should just know that.
Yeah. Okay.
You're welcome.
So I just pick people up. I don't know. So what was the question again? I'm
just what,
still thinking about the hug and getting a hug.
What's the next target? What's your next goal for the game?
So Deliverance became it's actually the highest crowdfunded Christian game, or Christian board game certainly, of all time. It's one of the highest crowdfunded Christian products of all time, kind of behind what Angel Studios is doing right now. Obviously The Chosen is crowdfunded more.
Right.
But and I think that marker for Deliverance, it being a board game, it wasn't a very high number to overcome. But what I'd like to do is we're going to release. So we have pre-orders open still. We're manufacturing the game now. We've made 5,000 units of this, and we've already pre-sold 3,200 of them. So if I can sell the rest of the 1,800 units, I'm going to have to reprint it. We have the fancy deluxe edition right now. So it's like the big $99 chonky edition that's 5 inches tall or 5.5 inches tall. That everybody wants, the fancy one.
Yeah, it's got the Master Chief helmet.
Yeah, exactly. We'll reprint the one that's less expensive and try to actually get it into stores and whatnot, into distribution. But the real key for me is that I want to go to Kickstarter again with an expansion, which we're working on right now, and I want to make $1 million with our next Kickstarter. It'll really allow us to do a lot more, and so part of the key is just selling through the rest of the stock that we have. It might all sell really quick. Depends on what happens when, it's really for board games. It's all about when people get to sit down and play the game. They're always going to play it with a friend or family member or a group. And those people tend to want to buy the game too. If the game is really good and they've been taught how to play, they'll want to buy it too. So you've got about 3,200 games that are going out there. We might sell through 1,800 in like a month. I don't know, or it could last a year. And so part of this is still a question mark on the marketing front, is like, how popular will this be truly? And, because there are a lot of Christians out there that were cautiously optimistic about the project. And then there were many more that sided on that erred on the side of caution rather than optimism, that were like, I just want to see if this game is good, before actually buying it. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunity out there, but the market, I think, will really tell me if they how badly they've been craving this, So
well, that's pretty awesome. I mean, you're roughly what, 3/4 of the way there, or not quite, but
so
you've got a little ways to go, but
so actually in the next what is it? Within 20 days, I'm going to have a prototype of the final copy that my backers will receive. All I have to do is approve that, and then it gets manufactured.
That's
So
exciting.
so it's I'd say we're about 5 months out.
And I applaud the goal of $1 million. I will say, for that,
of course you do, Eric.
For that reason, since I don't have that, I'm out.
Well, I don't need to raise it from one person.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Then I'm back in.
I'm very
Although
interested.
I wouldn't be-
I'm very interested in like the collectible version of it because I do like having some of those things.
You love those.
I do like a little.
You do. You love a collectible.
I love a good collectible.
He likes the deluxe editions.
Oh, of near everything.
Yep.
Yeah, if I'm into something, then I'm gonna spend a little extra because I want the.
I'm the cheapo.
The people that create the content, I think, if it's something that I really enjoy, I don't mind giving them an extra bump. Just because it's worth it to me and to get a little extra swag out of it is pretty cool.
How noble.
Yeah. Well, swinging the pendulum a little bit. Talk to us about Batman Beyond.
Yeah, let's talk Batman Beyond.
Why do you said you think it's one of the okayest Batmans?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that other people will disagree. I actually also am one of my guilty pleasures is The Dark Knight. Anytime somebody says Heath Ledger is bad at acting, I immediately think, what a great job he did in The Dark Knight. And how one of the Olsen twins killed him shortly after. Is that how it went?
Wow.
He died taking sleeping pills at one of the Olsen twins' New York penthouse apartments.
Yeah,
in case any people don't know. But
Terry Gilliam
probably got
Terry
real
Gilliam
sad.
knows. Well, okay, so you're saying method actor. I just recently, like yesterday, read an article from Terry Gilliam where he was talking about Mr. Parnassus was the last film that he did. They worked on it together, and he said that really wasn't the case. That
he wasn't method acting.
No, that he said he would finish a scene and then they would start talking about football. Like they would talk soccer and they would do this. That all of these rumors about him being like this psychotic method actor and all of this stuff, that those are just things that the media has put out there. That he was just a really sweet, generous guy, and that he got a couple of the wrong prescriptions mixed up,
it
and
was something
that it was just a bad thing that happened.
It was something that was not true about him, but is true about Jared Leto.
Yes. Yeah. Oof.
See, Heath Ledger, whenever I think of Heath Ledger, I always think of First Night, the scene where I don't know if you guys know this movie or not. It's not one of his most popular movies.
First Night or A Knight's Tale?
Or Knight's Tale.
Yeah,
Knight's Tale.
Where A Knight's Tale's
those
amazing.
gorgeous blonde locks.
Yes.
And the girl
Vision
put black ink in his tea.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which
always
is
replicate that scene with an Oreo. I always smile at my wife.
yeah.
That's awesome.
But Batman Beyond.
Yes.
Please.
So
please.
Batman Beyond, I think it was the version that I grew up with, and I actually watched every single episode of Batman Beyond. In fact,
how old are you then?
They even paid some homage to Batman Beyond's Harvey Two-Face with his coin.
Right.
The double-sided coin.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have a double-sided heavy. It's like a Pog Slammer. This thing is massive, but it's got a very angelic icon on both sides, and one side has been scratched out. I actually had the manufacturer scratch as deep as they could into the metal. It was a weird process. We had to work on it several iterations just to get it right. But
how did that correspondence
like
go?
That,
when they're like, we made it, and you go, okay, I want you to destroy it.
It's not Two-Face enough.
Just one side.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how can I make this not razor sharp because we're grinding into metal?
Yeah.
But how will it still work?
That is cool. It's an homage to Two-Face. That's pretty cool.
So how old are you if you grew up with Batman Beyond? No. Because here's the thing: if you're in our generation,
don't call him old just because he likes Batman.
But he would be younger than us if it was Batman Beyond because we were Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah,
but also Batman Beyond.
I am now 37.
Okay, so you are our age.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay. So how old were you when you were coming home watching Batman Beyond? Like, were you like driving home to watch Batman Beyond? To watch Batman Beyond?
I just remember it was on Cartoon Network.
He was on his bike.
He was on his bike.
There was
okay.
It was like Batman Beyond, Johnny Quest, and a couple of others that would just play like back to back.
Yep.
And
Speed Racer.
I would always get all of them. It's like 4 o'clock or 3 or something.
Yeah, you had Speed Racer was in there oftentimes, and Dexter's Laboratory.
Well, I can't wait to see a live adaptation of Batman Beyond. I don't love DC's track record, but I think we're ready. I think we've got the technology. We can build him.
Yeah.
Right? We've already got Iron Man.
I'm very sad that Henry Cavill is not Superman.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, me too.
Have you heard the rumors of who James Gunn may be picking?
Is this the one I told you about?
Yeah, because it's gaining traction. Elliot Page.
I heard that I mean, I saw that and I thought that somebody was just
Yeah.
No,
you know,
it's,
pulling my
of course,
chain.
of course this
there
isn't
is
true.
like this movement to try to get Elliot Page to become the next.
There are
Superman.
1,000 things wrong with that.
I say do it. I say do it. Honestly, we've had Rings of Power first of all, I liked Rings of Power.
Same.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was fun, but it wasn't Lord of the Rings. That is not Galadriel. That's not how she would have acted.
That's what I said.
You know, I mean,
This was
elves,
really good fan
all they want to
fiction.
do is tell people what to do. And, you know, Galadriel didn't even want to tell Frodo what to do with the ring in Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
Because they feel like I'm nerd, right? But I guess I'm in good company now.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
when an elf would tell somebody what to do, give them advice, they feel partially responsible for that person from that time forth, because the decisions they make, they have influenced that person now, and so they never want to tell people what to do. And yet, all Galadriel wanted to do is tell everyone what to do.
When
they wouldn't, she would just whip out her sword.
Yeah,
growling.
I don't really know if that happens until after Sauron comes back, though. Because there is some stuff sort of like in the Silmarillion and in some of the Lost Tales where the elves are still pretty full of themselves and doing that
I
kind
hope
of
that's
stuff.
the case.
So,
But
I think that their egos get checked pretty hard whenever they were dead wrong and end up, with the dwarves going, "Hey, deuces, you guys, good luck in Mordor."
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Elliot Page.
Yeah.
So hold on.
The idea is that I was very long-windedly getting to the idea that all of our fandoms are just crashing down in flames.
Yeah.
And I feel like
certainly.
these, in a way, like idols are just being stamped out one at a time. Like all of the great fandoms that we love are slowly being ruined.
Yeah, they finally made a bad Thor movie. All of that.
Yeah. It's like how why?
So is this along the lines of thinking of, hey, go ahead and burn it down, and then we'll let the phoenix arise from the ashes?
I think that's kind of what's happening with a lot of Hollywood movies. I truthfully believe they love evil more than money in a lot of cases. And you can see this with, with Disney and their latest thing they did with, where they were very, very vocal in Lightyear and in Strange World, and, about the LGBT stuff. And then Strange World, $180 million spent on it, and it has thus far not made that
And
money
it just
back.
lost a ton of money.
bombed.
Aside from that, great movie.
Right. It really was
No, I'm
high
just
production value
kidding.
and all that.
I didn't see it.
Okay.
I didn't see it.
No.
I mean, I can't speak to the quality of the movie. I haven't
can't either.
seen the whole thing, but
Aside from it
quality of
lost a
animation
ton
was
of
decent.
money, and it's a terrible movie. It was a great movie.
I couldn't watch it.
Yeah,
Well, they did right in Avatar,
I didn't
but
have interest
Avatar
in
was
it.
super based. It was like all about the man being the protector and the family being important, the nuclear family and that sort of thing. And it made $1 billion in like 10 days or something.
It's almost like we have themes that we all relate to.
Yeah. So I feel like there's the Hollywood bubble and there's like the normal people bubble. And every once in a while you break through, like Top Gun did it. They were just like, you know what? We're just celebrating America and making a great movie where everyone wins.
America said,
all the
"Yeah, here
time."
it goes,
Yeah,
our money,
yeah,
take it."
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that movie was in a theater forever.
Yeah.
It's probably
Especially
still in the theater somewhere.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, especially in a time where you're looking
in Oklahoma. It's still in theaters. They just got it.
They just got it in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at a time where movies are just like rolling through the theater, and so many streaming services are making
Sorry, Ricky.
movies like Glass Onion, right? That was in there just long enough for it to be considered for the award shows. Made a good chunk of money for Netflix, and then they're like, all right, we're out of the theater. Everybody is basically like making these movies to go to streaming. A movie like Top Gun Maverick is really an anomaly this day and age, which again, you had good versus bad. There was this common enemy. There was the infighting between all of it. It was the most perfect movie that's been made in the last 25 years.
I still haven't seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
I know.
You'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's a movie that you can't not enjoy. It's just like everyone wins.
It's real good.
So Batman Beyond, we need to make it, but maybe we wait until DC has a full crash. Is what we're getting.
I feel like they need to learn hard lessons, and then that their madness will get restrained for a little while before it goes right back, and they need to learn a hard lesson. Somebody
I'm with you.
is going to crash and burn. But I mean, honestly, I felt like the direction that they were taking superheroes. I think that superheroes, as a general rule, they have a winning formula with awesome superhero and some comic relief is so valuable. Like, I mean, you look at Aquaman, you look at, Batman was kind of like Dark Knight really
The first
was
Avengers,
something
too.
that was, dark, but yeah, like any Avengers movie, any one of those characters, you've got a winning combination with some humor and some lightheartedness and lots of bad guys getting their faces punched.
Millions of
It was
dollars.
just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
$1 billion. No
So,
problem.
so with and this is, I think a question that, since you kind of work in the marketing world, would be one that maybe you have a little insight on.
Friday Night Tights.
We're coming up on like the 100th year of Superman, Batman, Captain America. We just saw what happened when Winnie the Pooh became public domain, right? That people have just gone crazy with it. All of these like major and even some of the smaller comic book companies have lawyered up and are getting ready to begin to see how they can fight, these copyright claims and this defamation stuff. Do you think when we get to this, in 15 or 20 years, right after we sort of see everything burned down, now Superman's public domain, do you think that we see some of those things reclaimed just by the public because they're going to have the ability to write whatever story they want?
Yeah, I think as a marketer, I'm looking at trends and kind of what's happening now. And it is more important than ever to have a tribe of people that they're like your people, like you guys have your podcast listeners. They are your people that you can talk to. And that is, in my view as a marketer, that's where, I hate to be cliche, but that's power in the marketing world. People are, I did this, I marketed for a client one time that I'll just leave their name out in case this gets super popular and they sue the pants off me or something. They're an as seen on TV product. They had an email list of like 175,000 people. And I would send an email twice a week with 2 resends. So 4 emails a week going to this list. And you'd have 10 to 15% of people open it. The average person was like 72 years old on that email list. And they are okay with spam. They're basically okay with spam. They'd make $15,000 to $30,000 every email that I sent, and another $5,000 for each resend that I sent.
Oh, wow.
And
That's a lot of sham wows.
yes, and you would, yeah, exactly, and you would get, 4 people marking the email as spam and unsubscribing and that sort of thing. And it was awesome. But you put a bunch of millennials on that list, they're gone in a month, all of them. Right. And so the idea is that I want to gain, or I want to receive information about things I'm interested in. I don't like being sold to, but I love to buy stuff. It's a weird kind of conundrum, and it's almost like an oxymoron. That's something that just shouldn't be true. I don't like being sold to, but I love to buy.
Right.
And I think that we, as today, people like buying experiences. They like experiencing a thing, and part of that, especially with Kickstarter and other things like that, when you buy a game on Kickstarter, you kind of, it's not exactly a pre-ordering store, but for all my backers that back Deliverance, they have experienced like 18 months of entertainment so far, and they're a part of the process. They've been able to influence the actual design of the game. And they, one guy was like, I would buy your neoprene mat if you put a Little League field on it. Like, are you serious? I will do that right now. And like same day, I'm like, artist, do this for me. And he did. And the guy upgraded, and it was just really cool. But that guy will be my fan probably for life, because when he receives the thing and sees the Little League field, he's going to say, that's me. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think that marketing is kind of going back to what it was in like 1900, where you had the general store, and the general store guy knew every single person who was going to come in there with their order ready for them. I need 2 dozen eggs and 2 gallons of milk for this family, and so on. Right.
Dude, you're speaking my language. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that there's such value in a tribe of people that are loyal. Like you had Avengers is an excellent example of something that culminated in the probably the biggest movie of all time, I think, in Avengers Endgame, or the second biggest movie, I think. But they probably biggest now, but they have earned so many fans over the course of like a decade of Avengers movies, ever since Iron Man, right? And like I'm in for every Avengers movie. Like I'm in for, I have a couple on my list that I'm like, I have too many kids, so I don't get to the theater a whole lot, so I have to wait, But it's one of those things that you have a tribe, and I think, going back to that DC example, like if they bring in Elliot Page, then, I mean, I hope it does well, but I have a feeling that it won't, because Elliot Page is not 6'6".
Yeah, we have
250 pounds of pure muscle and hairy chest.
5 foot tall Superman.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Superboy.
Yeah,
Super thing.
It's just not gonna. It's not gonna work
it's
out.
not
James
the same.
Gunn.
It's just not the same.
Look, I am often resistant to a lot of change. Like I gotta say that I think when Christian Bale was announced as Batman, I didn't love it right away. When Ben Affleck was announced, I really didn't like that right away.
Yeah.
So I get it. People are resistant to change. I don't think Elliot Page is a good casting for Superman.
No.
Yeah.
No, and I don't think that's a stretch. I don't think that's a stretch to say that.
Yes.
Right. Dan, you know that we end all of our interviews with a little segment that we call controlled rowdiness. Now, these are just going to be some rapid-fire questions, which you can answer with as short or as lengthy a response as you would like to, Mr. Andrew. Expect nothing from us by way of reply or response. Now, we'll let you know that there are no wrong answers or right answers, but there are several wrong ones, so make sure not to step on any of those landmines. And I'm going to turn it over to Big Dan, General Grease. Let's get us going.
All right, Andrew. You get to do a Deliverance expansion, including Batman. What angel pairs with Batman?
Angel that pairs with Batman the best is
to
Shula, because
him.
she's an angel of light.
Merlot.
She is all about light. So she's going to keep Batman healed while he's up in front punching bad guys. And as soon as he gets hit by a grenade and doesn't have his heart stop, like in every single Batman movie, she'll just fix it.
Nice.
It'll be great.
Maybe that's his secret this whole time.
Yeah. His body armor stops shockwaves.
Yeah, he's always
and
prepared.
His heart is unstoppable.
Well,
He's
there you
always
go.
prepared. He always escapes. Maybe it's because Shuma's with him.
Yeah. Which Italian city has the best never-ending breadsticks?
Florence, of course.
Naturally. All right.
Which Italian city has the best chicken fingers? That was derivative.
Yeah.
That was
No,
big.
I just
That's
don't
big
think
time
that Italian
derivative.
cities have chicken fingers. Is that an answer?
That-
Is
I
acceptable
think that
answer?
is, I think that's correct.
That's acceptable.
All right.
Yeah.
What Hanna-Barbera character is your favorite? Being
Johnny Quest. Bam.
Okay.
Or He-Man. I'll take He-Man.
Is He-Man Hanna-Barbera?
I don't know. I have
No,
no
I
idea.
thi- I
But
think
he's
I
designing
don't-
like the art style of Hanna-Barbera.
This is true. Yeah.
But Johnny Quest. Bam.
Yep. All right.
That was-
Do you
Yeah.
think they'll ever make? I don't think they've made a live action adaptation. I don't think they have.
Of Johnny
Do you think
Quest?
they will?
It's so
No.
tropish. It's like
You don't
the
think so?
Indian is.
Yeah,
You
that-
don't think they're going to have a little
and-
Indian guy named Haji running around in a new live action movie in 2023?
No, but honestly, I
long as he's in-
understand. When diversity gets a bad rap sometimes, where people will say, they'll be mad that you put a black character in, like the Little Mermaid is black,
Sure.
right, in the upcoming Disney movie. And I personally am of the belief that if she can sing, then great. I love that. I think that
She
people
can
have these
sing.
sacred cows that they need to just cast down, like every hero character in Johnny Quest being white. Like, it doesn't have to be that. Let's reimagine it and make it more awesome. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the Lord of the Rings Journey in Middle-earth heroes, which one are you most likely to play as?
If I want to win, it's Legolas, and if I want to have fun, it's Gimli.
All right.
Yeah, you're always Gimli.
Winning is fun.
Yeah, losing sucks.
What would you say to someone who's trying a board game based. What do we call this? I need some help here.
Okay, we're trying a tabletop RPG.
Tabletop RPG. There you go.
Yes.
What would you tell someone who wants to try Deliverance, a tabletop RPG for the first time?
Just find a friend that you know that doesn't mind reading a rule book and make them learn the rules. And so what you do is you buy Deliverance for them and say, I got you a present. And you give it to them and they learn the rules for you and they teach you how to play.
That's a good idea. That's what happened to us.
Yeah, that's exactly
Except
what we did.
that I still checked out.
Here's the thing is, and I'm sure Andrew will agree, this will be our last question. Every tabletop role-playing game is good as long as the entire group allows light cheating. Yes or no?
Well, what would you consider cheating? I just feel like...
No, light, not like actual cheating, like light cheating. Like, oh no.
Creative interpretation of the rules.
Yeah.
I didn't like how that dice roll went. Or, the dice roll is cocked just like 1 degree.
Okay, yeah,
I
like
have to
some
re-roll
of
it.
yeah, some of that, or maybe
re-roll D6.
Or like
Or
I
maybe
lightly
like-
stole one of your cards.
yeah,
and-
or maybe both of us could have gone after this one objective, and then I go and it tests something I'm not good at, and we're like, no, you went for this, right? And they're like, yes, yes, I did.
Well, I'm gonna switch
yeah,
that
light.
character.
That's what I'm talking about. Light cheating.
I wholeheartedly agree because games are meant to be fun. They're not
Right.
meant to, like we escape life, which does that to us.
Yes.
If you want to get punched in the face, go like work for a week somewhere. And, if you want to get punched in the face with life, but if you want to experience a power fantasy that you have complete control over, then add light cheating to your gaming experience for enhanced fun.
Well, there you go.
Wonderful
You heard it
answer.
from the designer himself.
Wonderful
Andrew,
answer.
tell
Thank
our
you.
audience where it is that they can go and support you guys and where they can follow what's going on with you and Deliverance.
Thank you. Yeah, you can go to playdeliverance.com and you'll get a lowdown on what Deliverance is, as well as access to the pre-order store for purchasing the game. Right now, we're actually offering a ridiculous deal. It's very similar to what was on Kickstarter with a little bit higher shipping so that we don't lose our arms or an arm and a leg on the cost. But you can get the deluxe edition and the fancy metal coins and the neoprene mat that's like a gigantic mouse pad that of thematically awesome stuff there. And we even sell t-shirts and things like that. So it's playdeliverance.com. Or if that's not working right now, I don't know if it's working at the time of our recording, but deliverancethegame.com is the other is the base URL that you can go to grab the game and follow along. If you want to just jump on the email list and follow along, you can do that too.
Sweet. And
awesome.
I'm just going to go ahead and send you $100 in an envelope so that way it doesn't hit the bank account and the wife can't go, what is this? Man, Andrew, it's been a blast having you on. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Andrew freaking Lowen, The Deliverance.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Is this a
The
game that you
game-
think you would be willing to try?
The game sounds great, and he hooked me right away with Frank Peretti because I loved that book growing up.
This Present Darkness?
Yeah.
Did you
And then,
read
I don't
like
remember- I
the
don't-
next one? So
what
the
was
next
the-
one, so is This Present Darkness and
I
then
read it.
Piercing the Darkness.
Yes, I did. I
Yeah,
liked
I've
the
got
first
the
one.
double book set.
I liked the first one the most.
Right.
But I did like the second one.
You like the first one
it was,
the more
it was
than
a lot
most?
of fun. I think I believe I was on the heels of rereading Lord of the Rings again, and I was like, I need to find something right because I read it again. It's still really good, but third time
You like that one the
I need
greatest?
something different.
Yeah, and it was cool to see how like that sort of fantasy part of Christian fiction has now morphed its way into a game and what he's doing with it. I'm really interested to see not just how the game plays, but also to see.
I'm interested in how it plays.
Yeah?
because he'd mentioned, hey, I want to make first and foremost a really good game, and then
Right.
also when I'm trying to remember his exact words, but it was one that essentially stands up theologically,
Yeah.
not necessarily preachy, but just one
Right.
that's biblically accurate. And the fact, with making a good one first is what I'm really excited about, because he's right. There's a lot of garbage.
There is, and I think that hits on something that we've talked about a couple of times, is like the idea of how can I be good?
Yeah.
right? Like that's a big theme
be
of,
good first.
of everything that we've been talking about. So that's very cool. I'm excited about that. And one of the things that I think is intriguing about it is the pieces. You know, like that's what I'm saying. Not only the gameplay, because I am excited about the gameplay. I think that would be fun to see and to watch and be a part of. But also, I want to see the pieces. I want to see how everything goes together. I want to see the two-faced coin that looks like a pog slammer that he talked about, because now you're hitting on a lot of stuff, you know, from our generations growing up. Make sure that you guys check out all the links to Andrew's stuff in the show notes. Go ahead and support his stuff. Order your copy of Deliverance.
The game.
The game.
.com.
Yeah, there you go. All right, you guys stay hard. Keep jamming, and we'll see you.
Hello, I am Andrew Lowen, designer of Deliverance, and this is why you should never listen to the Reverend and the Reprobate, is because they're both reprobate.